It's hard to imagine that over a year ago, I was calling the Senate back to session after New York's first positive case was reported. It was the case of a person who lived in a city that I represent. In March 2020, when New York was facing the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, the legislature, both houses, and here on both sides of the aisle, granted emergency powers to the governor to allow for a swift response to the pandemic when not much was known. Those emergency powers allowed the governor to issue directives. And that was something that no governor had been allowed to do before. Today, under this new legislation, the governor will no longer be able to issue any new directives, period. We have come a long way from where we were then because of New Yorkers' strength and response to control this pandemic. In light of recent events, however, it is clear that we need to move toward a system of increased oversight, review, and verification between the legislature and the executive branch, and also limit the powers granted to the governor. This is an opportunity to begin the recovery process from this pandemic that has taken the lives of New Yorkers and sets a new vision for how disaster response is handled in New York State. Quite frankly, and we've heard the words checks and balances all day, New Yorkers must have checks and balances. The system created through this legislation that I sponsor will assure increased information while at the same time ensuring New Yorkers continue to be protected. The governor will be able to extend or modify existing COVID-19 directives by providing information to the legislature and municipalities impacted within 5 days prior to the change. Furthermore, if the governor chooses to extend an existing directive, a public response to any comment from the legislature or local leaders is required. This comment and review process ensures transparency and accountability for the executive, giving local constituents, and yes, my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, a voice in the process and an outlet to ensure their concerns are heard and addressed. Additionally, this legislation will provide that the legislature may terminate a state disaster emergency by concurrent resolution, ensuring a new check by the legislature on the governor's authority during a declared state of emergency. Pre-existing directives that have nothing to do with COVID-19 will be terminated. The Commissioner of Health will be solely responsible for certifying the veracity and necessity of continuing pandemic-related directives. If he fails to do that, the directive cannot and will not be extended. The legislature already has the power to overturn any executive action during an emergency without approval by the governor. Still, the legislature is not being briefed or informed about each action's details, making it difficult to use this power. This legislation changes the information and response vacuum we have all witnessed and experienced. This system strengthens the balance of power to ensure checks and balances during a state of emergency and will necessitate a better flow of information between the executive and legislature during this significant crisis. Our proposal creates a system with increased input while at the same time ensuring New Yorkers continue to be protected and the oversight they expect is in place. The proposal would also require the executive branch to provide searchable format information and justify emergency suspensions and directives. This information deserves to be public knowledge in a format the general public and stakeholders can easily find and use and understand. Critics say that we should end everything, go back to where we were before COVID-19, before the virus killed 500,000, yes, 500,000 of our fellow Americans, including over 47,000 New Yorkers. But New Yorkers know how bad that was and how bad that could be, and our struggle continues. We're fighting forward and won't let politics dictate policy to keep people healthy and alive. The Senate Democratic majority is focused on creating results and passing legislation that prioritizes health, safety, and the recovery of New York State. I reiterate these facts because politicians will play politics and try to take any opportunity to pontificate to further a political agenda. But this really is about good government, working on getting things done, and saving the lives of the people we are responsible for serving. New Yorkers across this state send us here to find legislative solutions, solve problems, and take the best action. They don't care about the gimmicks. They care about their families' daily lives and how what we do impacts them. That's why we're getting this done today, so that New Yorkers know that as we've reached this moment during the pandemic, we are guaranteeing the checks and balances, the accountability, the responsibility that they expect from their government. We have a lot of work to do in the weeks and months ahead. I look forward to working with you all to continue to fight through this pandemic and for the recovery of our state and its people. I vote aye.